Good morning.
Good morning.
Today is April the 11th, 2021, and our talk today our conversation is about the power of yes, the power of saying yes to opportunities and invitations. So I'm going to begin with a reading and a prayer by Ernest Holmes, and it's entitled Living Without Fear. And he says, fear robs memory of happiness because it dwells upon the limitation and morbidities of the past. It robs the future of pleasurable and enthusiastic anticipation because it casts a shadow of its past into the future. It robs today of the possibility of fulfillment because it denies the good we might experience in the moment in which we live. How much better it would be if we could think as a child thinks, abandoning ourselves to the integrity of the miracle working universe in which we live. If the warmth of the sun can melt an iceberg, why should it not follow that there must be something in us or operating through us that can dissolve any difficulty, remove any obstruction, or renew any human relationship that has been impaired? We should consciously practice having faith, just as we would practice becoming a musician. We should do mental exercises to build up our acceptance of good. The process is simple enough since it finally resolves itself into very simple affirmations of conviction. But there must be a persistency until finally old thought patterns melt and give way to new ones. So, this is the affirmative prayer, and you may repeat this as I say it. Today, I cultivate the art of having faith. I affirm the reality of the divine presence in my life and deny everything that refutes it. As a child turns to its parents, so do I turn to that infinite presence whose creative law can do all things. And I accept the influx of all that makes for richer living. Because nothing is impossible to God, I believe that nothing is impossible to me through God's power in me. I am daring to believe in the greater good. I am forsaking all that has held me in bondage and uniting myself with faith, with expectation, and with joy. I now live without fear. And so it is.
Beautiful. I'd like to start off with, although our talk is about saying yes, what I'd like us to talk a little bit about is that often a lot of our activities, a lot of our conversations, or a lot of what we do is not a yes, it's to avoid something bad happening. And so you don't want to do that. You're on.
Yes, I do.
Okay,
Oops,
that's what I mean.
sorry.
So what I mean by that is that if you look at our teaching, which tells people or invites people to be in charge of what happens to you by using your mind, by deciding, by saying yes, by doing whatever you need to do, taking positive action. What I notice we often do is we take an action to avoid something bad happening. And so we better do that or this will happen. And so we really want to shift that and take a look at, are we making decisions in favor of us because we're excited and want to move forward? Or are we making decisions in order to avoid something negative happening? Because if we're making a decision to avoid something negative, that something negative idea is running us in the background.
Mhm.
And so the precursor to yes is no. And we really want to pay attention to that.
Yeah, exactly. Course in Miracles says there are really only two emotions, love
And
and
fear.
fear. And so all those other emotions fall under one of those categories. And so fear can really stop us from living our best lives. And unfortunately, our brain is designed to hold on to fear to protect us,
Yeah.
and to protect our ego and to make sure that we don't have any more painful experiences as we've had in the past. And unfortunately, that keeps you really stuck in a box where you're not going to risk, you're not going to step out on faith, you're not going to trust that good things could happen if I take this risk. And so we actually have to overcome our own brain. We have to overcome our own thinking. And that's why Ernest Holmes said, you do this until you change your thinking.
Hmm.
You don't change your thinking with one thought. You change your thinking with lots of patterns of thoughts in that direction, and then it eventually does get changed. But any painful experiences in the past will keep us from wanting to take a risk, if that could happen again.
So Jim Carrey did a movie that's really quite entertaining and probably worth a watch again, which was Yes Man. And
In 2008,
the movie was based on, he went to a seminar and he was given the
the
instruction,
character did, not Jim
right?
Carrey.
But the character was given in the seminar and the instruction to say yes to everything. And he says yes to everything. And of course, it's crazy and wonderful and wild, and some good things happen. But what happens in the long run is that by saying yes without equivocation, without doubt or without worry, he just says yes and then moves forward as his whole world opens up to him. And I thought about it when I watched the movie, and then I thought about it
And it
yesterday.
got a little crazy.
Right, and I thought about it again when we talked yesterday about the title, and we realized we began exploring personally all of the yeses that we've given to the world that have changed our lives.
Hmm.
The yeses where we said yes to something and we didn't know how to do it. And so very often what we do is we don't say yes to something unless we can already figure out how to do it. And often that's kind of like, I don't need to go on the roller coaster ride because I've already done it. And what happens, of course, is you don't have to, but you also don't have the experience. You don't have that, whatever goes on with you physically. So if we could figure it out ahead of time, it's probably too small for you. If you can't figure it out ahead of time, it may be the right size for you to grow in consciousness, to grow in mind, to grow in thought. And so this business of stretching and doing something that, I don't know that I really want to do that. How often have you actually said, I don't know if I want to do that. God, I'm so glad we said yes to that. And the God, yes, yeah, I'm glad we said yes to that follows taking the chance, taking the risk, going ahead and moving forward, even though it may have been uncomfortable or maybe required some work on your part.
And yeah, it started with our first beginnings, actually, even before we got married. We were in relationship, and we lost our rental where we were living. And so I actually proposed to Bob, but I looked at him and said, "Do you want to get married and move to the Northwest?"
Right.
My sister had moved there, and I said, let's do an adventure. Let's get married, move to the Northwest.
And I looked at my calendar. I wasn't busy. I didn't have a lot on it. And there was no place that marriage was scheduled in, but I thought we could do that. Sure.
My best friend had moved there too, and
Yeah.
so we were going to go up there and do life in the Midwest, not Midwest, Northwest. And what was interesting is that he said yes. He said yes. It meant quitting our jobs. We did. We couldn't go online at that time, so I don't know how we did it. We looked up newspapers or something, but we both managed to secure jobs up there before we went. And when we got there, they both fell through.
So there we are.
Fortunately, my sister was there,
Right.
and we lived with her for a while.
Yeah, there we are in a state we don't know much about during the allergy season, which is wonderful, and without jobs and no prospects for jobs because Coeur d'Alene, Idaho, has I think 4 jobs per year available to people. But
And not to people coming from out of
no,
state.
no, no, those are definitely help for the people that have been there more than 10 years. Yes, so we're strangers in a strange land saying yes.
But interesting, it led to offers from the place where one of the places we worked back here in Florida, offering us promotions if we would come back to Florida and open a new unit for treating eating disorders at a hospital. And Bob was offered the program director job, and he said, "I'll do it if my wife can be the lead counselor."
And
So,
you can pay my moving expenses.
and you can pay my moving
They said we've
expenses.
never done that. We'll get back to you. And I didn't really care because at that point it looked like I might have another job there. Within 3 days, that other job fell through. And then I paced by the phone for the next 2 weeks, waiting for them to call back so that I could say yes to whatever they wanted. And they came through with the offer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it was great. We ended up, because of that decision, having a 2-month honeymoon, an adventure across the country, getting to visit Yellowstone National Park and many other places. and came back to promotions and moved and had an adventure for 12 years in the St. Pete, Sarasota area. So every place we said yes when there was an opening or possibility led to greater developments of character, of abilities, of talents, and just an adventurous life. We were going through all the places we would not have
Yeah,
seen
we
and things we wouldn't have done if we hadn't said yes to
absolutely.
every opportunity.
So the piece that you just talked about, which is really, really important, is that when you say yes to one thing, you're saying yes to a universe of possibilities that is much bigger than that one thing. You're saying yes to growth in a lot of different areas. I had no idea
Hmm.
that we would, because we said yes to that adventure, we would also have to look at everything that we owned and ask ourselves, do we want to keep it?
Hmm.
We'd have to
Hmm.
ask ourselves, do we want to move it? Which you could look at as the baggage that you carry before you say yes, and the baggage you have to let go of when you say yes to almost anything. And so we had to look at everything we had. We had to then set a new course for ourselves and know that we didn't know how to get to it. That is, we'd never been there before. We knew the mechanisms, but we didn't have the tools. We would have to acquire the tools along the way. Again, another opening to a world, making it bigger. So I think symbolically, our trip to the North Pacific Northwest is like the yes that everybody has to awaken to, which is a journey. There's travel, there's packing, there's old ideas that have to be set aside for new ones to take over or to be initiated. And all of that happens every time you say yes, which is why yes can be so difficult. Very often people don't say yes. They say, I don't know, maybe.
It's the unknown.
Yeah, yeah.
It's the unknown, and the fear of the unknown can
But
keep you where it's safe.
imagine a baby saying, "No, no, I think walking is not a good idea. I
I think I'll continue to
I'll
crawl.
probably fall down." Uh, Usually, in each stage of life, no, I don't think I go to school because there'll be a lot of other people there, and I don't know if I can do that or not. I haven't learned social skills yet, so why don't I learn this at home and then I'll go to school? Yeah,
Yeah, yeah. But we do, so many times we do check all possibilities for negatives to happen, and we say, no, no, I think I'll just stay safe. So that's where faith comes in, and that's where trusting in good,
yeah,
which is another way of saying trusting in God, trusting in good, that good can come of this, will come of this, will it'll be an adventure, and we'll make it a good thing. I want to, can
yeah,
I
yeah,
share a
yeah, yeah.
Deepak Chopra quote? Deepak Chopra says in
I like
his
this.
book, The Seven Spiritual Laws of Success, relinquish your attachment to the known, step into the unknown, and you will step into the field of all possibilities. You will have excitement, adventure, mystery. You will experience the fun of life, the magic, the celebration, the exhilaration, and the exaltation of your own spirit. And that truly is indeed what has been our experience, and,
Mhm.
and what we're urging you to do and try. And that includes social invitations. If you're giving an invitation, if like I was given an invitation to attend the soul spa that Alex put on last week, the first one. And, I'm going, I don't know if I want to give up a whole day. Like my days are so important these days.
I don't want to give up my
I
day at
have to
home.
drive an
Yeah,
hour up
yeah,
there and a whole
yeah.
day. It'll be a whole day. But I said yes. And I really was excited about the possibilities. And it turned out to be a wonderful experience for me in particular, because of some of the issues I'm going through. It really was a spa for my soul. And so I urge you, even with social invitations, say yes if it's safe. If you're safe. We still are in a pandemic, so if it's done safely, and Alex's it was done outside and with social distancing, and so um, it was great. It was great.
I notice a lot of things that we say yes to have several steps involved in after the yes. So, and I'm going to liken this to riding a bicycle. You say yes to the trip, and as soon as you say yes to the trip, you get excited, and you think, "Wow, this is going to be fun." And then an hour or two after you begin, your butt hurts. It's sore. You think this is not good. I shouldn't be doing this. And then a little while later, you notice that the pain has gone away and you're renewed in your energy and moving forward. And then a little while later, you're thinking, will we ever get there? Are we there yet? And then when we get there, well, what will we do? How will it work? And I think those are all the different things that go on that we often say make us say no. I'd say yes, but I don't want to be sore. I don't want to be confused. I don't want to be tired. I don't want to get there and not know what to do. It's just a lot easier to say no. And so, but look at this in terms of your spiritual life. Look at
Excuse me.
this in terms of stretching your spiritual life and asking yourself, is there somebody that I haven't read that I've heard about that would open the door to more, even if it did challenge some of what I already believe? Ask yourself spiritually, what am I doing? What practice am I practicing now that I've gotten so comfortable with that it's no longer something that I do. It's something that sort of goes on behind the scenes. I'm almost anonymous to it. An exercise I've seen sometimes is do everything with your left hand if you're right-handed for the day.
Mhm.
Try using your being in the world a little differently. An exercise I recently gave a client that I was coaching because she was struggling with not connecting was pretend for at least a day that you're a child discovering the world for the first time. And when you see a bird, don't name it. Try to figure out what it's doing and what it means and how it relates to you. That's the yes to getting involved and connecting at a deeper level to a world that we somehow sometimes streamline our life to the point where we don't necessarily have to be there. And what happens is we get sad and we get depressed because there's nobody home.
And I wanted to go back to when you say yes to something new, like bicycling is something that we used to do a lot, and somehow in the winter we stopped doing it. A few cold days, it's all it took.
Yeah, it was
Or
it,
cool days, I
it
should
could
say.
it could have snowed. We
It
didn't
could have
know.
couple of
Yeah.
cool days. So we decided we were going to start biking again. Well, yeah, gee, my knees are hurting after starting it. Wow, my knees are hurting, and then, gosh, my hand. I've got some joints in my hand that are hurting, and it's gone away now. But when you first start
Mhm.
something new, there can be some discomfort, and you have to strengthen. You have to strengthen up.
Yeah, symbolically, the first thing we had to do before we could go for a ride is put air in the tires.
Yeah.
And sometimes what you have to do is put air in the dream. You have to
Mm.
add air to the idea, and until it can float, until it can actually raise you up. Uh, the yes is not in and of itself the answer. The yes is the beginning. It's the opening of the door. And so this is a good time for us to be opening more doors, especially as the pandemic is getting closer to not being as restrictive and limiting. We have to ask ourselves, how limiting am I to myself? How do I
Mhm.
limit myself
Mhm.
in my daily expression? The spa day was interesting because I was a part of the conversations before. Like, I don't know if we really want to go. I don't know if I can go. I mean, maybe I should stay home and do something different. And but all along the way, Judith was saying underneath it, but I think I'd really like to do that. I'd really like to do that. And then I couldn't find anything to wear, so I couldn't go. So,
For women only.
oh, there's that. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Oh, I just want to say my knees don't hurt anymore, and
yeah.
my hand doesn't hurt anymore.
And we're riding
So,
a lot.
and we're
We've got
riding
we
again.
started out riding 5 miles a day on the bike at about 9 miles per hour, and now we're up to 12. And that's average. We're doing much better than 12, which is really incredible. But it also says that once you say yes, the entire body that you have begins to do everything it needs to do to be in favor of the outcome that you want.
So I wanted to say that, well, one of our practitioners, Sandra Marchman, told me of a
Oh yeah.
challenge she got. I don't know what caused it, but I think she was challenged at a workshop or something to say yes to everything that she was asked for, and including invitations, I believe. And she said it was really interesting and challenging, but very rewarding to her. It's everybody who asked for money, everybody who panhandled, take out that dollar. But so it was like, do what? But she said it was really a growth experience for her, and brought her into all sorts of interesting situations that she hadn't anticipated. So, but what I'd like to say, in the movie, the way that ended, he crawled back to his instructor and asked to please release him from that
Covenant.
covenant that say yes to everything, because he had said yes to a couple of things that he regretted. and the the seminar leader said, "Oh, that was just meant metaphorically. Certainly, you're allowed to say no to things that you think might be dangerous or are not good for you." And he's, "Oh," so so
I
his
took that to heart, and when Sandra told us the experience that she'd had, I thought that was wonderful, but I'm going to go slow with it. So I started saying yes to chocolate, ice cream, extra servings of anything, and so far so good. I've been able to hold on to that good feeling as well as the additional weight. Actually, I may have to start saying no a few more times, but
So, in conclusion, I just would like to say we do have to exercise our faith. We have to, when we get scared of something and a new opportunity shows itself or there's an unknown, we have to go, okay, do I have
exercise, the
faith?
operant word in that is exercise.
And exercise our
Yeah,
faith, practice it. Yeah,
and when you exercise, you discover all the parts that you have in favor of the outcome that you didn't know were movable or that could work for you. That also means that in this universe we live in, the universe is operating the same way. That is, when you decide you want to do something, it will then flex its muscles in every way that is necessary for it to move in your direction.
exactly.
And that's huge. You're not alone, and you can do this. Or you can say, I got this,
And so we're going to play a piece of music that exemplifies
after we,
after we,
stop recording,
yes, after we stop recording. Thank you.
because we
And
we can't we don't want to get in trouble with the music industry.